Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today for this roundtable discussion of the members of the fellowship program from the Facebook Certified Community Managers Group. We have a wonderful speaker today, guest speaker, Tiffany Markman, who is going to explain to us why it is important to develop a freelance mindset as community managers. If any of you have questions throughout the event, please feel free to add them in the comments and we will try to answer them for you during the event. Now, the people who are participating are all members, are all certified members, community managers, and we are all involved in the fellowship program in the first cohort. So I'm going to start off with a little icebreaker question. And I think we'll just go around the circle. And the question is, what is the most random project you have ever worked on? And what did you learn from it? So Hal, I see you smiling. Perhaps we'll start with you.
Sure. Hi, everybody. The most random one was in the States when the Supreme Court Justice, and I had no political interest in it whatsoever. I'm not a political person, but when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, there was a large, rapid, overnight viral movement to try to put somebody in the Supreme Court seat that was of a like mind of hers. And through one of the other groups that I was involved with, I found out that somebody had joined. She created a group to to facilitate that political opinion, and she invited like 100 of her friends. And she went to bed that night and woke up the next morning and had like 60,000 membership requests the next morning. Yeah. So, and it was just her, it was like her and her two friends. So they brought us in, and we helped her try to organize how to. I mean, and like I said, I wasn't for or against the political opinion of the community. I was more interested in helping facilitate, helping her be a successful community leader, which was it was very, very random, and just it popped in overnight, and it took about 3 weeks to get it all organized. But yeah, it was very random, and it was fun to do because it was a big challenge trying to organize a viral group overnight. It was very interesting to say the least.
Wow, that must have been quite a learning curve, Hal.
Well, yeah, what we did was what we decided that the best way to manage it was her, because her interest was putting forward that particular political view. We
Yes.
decided that the feed in the community needed to be protected because
Okay.
no matter how many members people were trying to join, was irrelevant. The fact was that she needed to protect that feed because if she lost control of the feed itself, she would lose the mission of the group. So we
Yes.
stopped letting members in, and we created little sub teams, like an admin team of admin teams, where there were 5 people in charge of membership, 5 people in charge of watching the feed, and we organized it in a manageable way so that she could sit back and just watch it happen because we had to protect the integrity of the information that was coming out to the public. It was really interesting. I was like, how do we do this? And what I did was I had to leave the platform. I went off the internet. I turned my computer off and I got my notebook out. And I said, okay,
Wow.
well, how do we organize 50 or 60,000 member requests, let them come into the community in an organized way to protect the interests of the creator of the group? It was a lot of fun, but it was like,
That's
how do we do this? And just a little bit of
that
organizing.
that's so awesome, Hal. So essentially you were the spin doctor who went in and fixed the challenge and then came back out again.
Yeah.
That's a really awesome role to play. Thank you for sharing that with us.
And it comes into the lines of freelancing also, where I had no involvement in the community, and I just went in for them and sort of like I fixed it, and then I left back out. And she's got a 501(c)(3) now. She's got a page. She's got multiple groups. So we helped her build a foundation, and it was all freelance. So
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you. So I see that Kara and Michael have joined us. Thank you so much. I have posted the question that we've already started for the icebreaker in the comments if you want to take a look. And I think we'll move on to Shelley. Would you like to tell us what is the most random project you have ever worked on and what did you learn from it?
I'm trying to think of a good answer for this. The only thing I can assume with my niche being so planned and no things really popping up, the most random I've been through would be leaving my current group and joining the new group of the exact same niche and turning it around and making it Facebook compliant. That was my most proud moment, but it's very random to leave one group and join another and it be absolutely 100% identical.
Wow, that's interesting. So it
It's
was random
nice.
and the same.
Random and the same. That was beautiful for me.
That's a wonderful story. Thank you.
I wish we had more random events go on, but it's so planned. And coming from a background in broadcast radio, nothing goes on without us planning it out weeks in advance. And that's how we run our groups.
Okay. So you've got very long timelines on all of your calendars.
Yes. At least 6 to 8 weeks in advance of planning. So nothing comes up that's not pre-planned and set in stone.
Okay. Not a lot of random in there, is there?
No, thank you. I love it.
A lady who likes her structure.
Yes, I love structure and discipline.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, Kara, what is the most random project you've ever worked on and what did you learn from it?
First of all, I just want to say I love this question. I think it's so funny. And you can learn a lot about someone by the answer. So I'm excited. For me, oh my gosh, my mind's all over the place. But I think I used to work at a really small startup. And when I was interviewing for the job there, one of my assignments through the interview process was to pitch my dream partnership for the company. And I was coming on to lead the community and focus on Facebook groups and don't have any background in partnerships. But I put together a presentation pitching it was a self-care app that I was interviewing for. And I pitched at the time, Bumble was huge. And so I put together, and it was Valentine's Day. So I put together a partnership pitch around self-care and Bumble coming together to talk about self-love and the importance of that. And I got the job. And then after I got the job, they allowed me to cold pitch Bumble. I just found an email and we were, laughing, nothing's ever going to come of this. And they came back to us and said, we love this, but now it's a little late in the game for Valentine's Day. So if you're open to coming up with a different idea, let's find a way to work together. So I ended up leading a partnership, which I'd never done before, with Bumble BFF to get people to practice community care and find friends that will hold them accountable to practice self-care and to connect to just be better to themselves together. So it was really fun and I was very out of my element, but I think it encouraged me to not be afraid to share my big ideas, even if they feel crazy at the time.
Yes. That's so wonderful. That's a real feeling when you're how did I get here? How did this happen to me?
Exactly.
Okay, so Michael, I'm not sure if you want to participate in this question. Would you like to participate? Okay. Tiffany. Oh, yes, Michael says he's going to participate. Awesome. Michael, so what is the most random project you've ever worked on and what did you learn from it? We can't hear you, Michael. Hello, Michael. We can't hear you. Okay. All right. Okay. No audio. Okay, Tiffany, on to you. What is the most random project you've ever worked on and what did you learn from it?
I'm a freelance copywriter, which means that the bulk of what I do is very random. I write about everything from intellectual property law to the presidency to soft drinks that come in red and white cans to the sound that the BMW hooter make. I mean, I write through all sorts of weird scenarios. But your question made me think a little bit, because one of the things that I've written is a radio commercial for a tick and flea product for dogs. And so I had to personify the dog. So we called him Rex, and Rex is the voice of the ad, and Rex is scratching, and you can hear him asking his owner for a tick and flea product because he's itchy, and the ad did so well in South Africa on radio that we were then asked to create a Facebook community around Rex. And even though I do no social media management whatsoever, they wanted me, because I had come up with Rex, to manage the Facebook page, which I did briefly. Luckily, it was campaign driven and not permanent. And then Rex, sort of went to that little doggy bed. The persona went to the little doggy bed in the sky. But that was certainly one of the most random things I've ever done, is writing in the first person as a male dog with ticks and fleas.
That's fantastic. I love that story. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. So I think my most random job that I ever worked on, I've always been in textiles. And along the way, I wanted to make a video, a training video that I could hand out on DVD. And in order to pay it off, I traded services with a videographer who was trying to break into fashion TV. And he asked me to work with him behind the scenes as an interviewer at fashion events. And I ended up interviewing Miss South Africa one year, 45 minutes after she was crowned.
Wow.
And it was so not my game. And one of those surreal moments where I was like, how the hell did I get here? So that was no planning, where no planning could get you, and collaborations with random people, and what I learned,
strange things.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I had a lot of fun. With it, and I learned that sometimes it can be very nice to push outside of your comfort zone a little. So thank you, all of you, for sharing those wonderful experiences. I appreciate it very much. Okay, now on to the second round of questions. And this is, again, going to be one that I'd like all of you to answer, because it's going to help Tiffany then at the end just to flesh out some extra information for you that will be useful to your specific cases, and that will then lead into a natural Q&A session. So the next question is, why do you feel you need to develop a freelance mindset? And what would you like to ask Tiffany? So I know that all of you are working on different things, and perhaps you have a specific question for Tiffany that you would like to ask her, and this would be your opportunity to do so. So why do you feel you specifically need to be more strategic about developing your freelance mindset? And I think we will start with Kara, maybe.
Sure. Thanks, Melanie. So for me, I have a laundry list, but I'll start with, I just think it's really important for everyone to have some level of a freelance mindset. And I was so excited when Melanie brought you up, Tiffany, as a potential guest for an event like this, because I think it's something that I know I'm personally really interested in, and I know many others in our certified community manager community are as well. But I think for me, for much of my career, I've been like a team of one, even when I'm at larger companies. And so I think I always have to be the one with like all eyes and ears, paying attention to like what's happening within a company and what's happening within a community, and sort of putting those pieces together. So it's really important to be able to be strategic, but also be able to juggle a million things at once and like shift context really quickly, which I think is, I'm sure crucial in the freelance world. So I think there's a lot of overlap and just a lot of skills that I would love to hone, and learn any tips and tricks from you on any of those topics.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Kara. Hal?
Thank you. Yeah, I think I look at the freelance landscape. I don't know how else to put it, or the freelance world as it's really for me two ways to look at it. Um, the overarching part for me is when I think about me freelancing, I think about me bringing something to the table um, independently to whatever environment or community I'm involved in. Even though especially in the certified group, and Melanie, you and I have been doing this pretty regularly since we started, where we're freelancing ourselves, doing individual projects, but at the same time we're supporting each other in the background and helping each other out. And hey, what do you think about this, and what do you think about that? And we're using each other as a sounding board to help guide each other to follow our own freelance path, which I think is really critical. And the other part of freelancing that I think helps me when I think about it is no matter what situation I walk into, whether it's a paid arrangement or free or my own communities or helping a friend out online, whatever. Um, I have to keep my mind open to different possibilities because like when I walked into the certification program and I started learning. Um, my eyes were really open to different types of communities, and I thought I had a diverse set of skills when it came to manage community management and dealing with people on the platform. And one of the and I put a lot of value on this. One of the greatest lessons I've learned, and I'm using it to keep walking down this journey, is that I don't know every type of community. I don't understand every different need. And if I put myself in a freelance mindset, it opens myself up to learning and to getting a better understanding of what's on the other side because, many of us have a lot of decades of experience in doing this. And we only know like the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what communities are doing and how we can assist each other in getting down that path. So I think that's really a great way for me to look at, freelancing and the money part of it and getting paid to help people, bringing something to the table. And it's my world is not the world. It's just a little piece of the world. And how can I play into it?
I love that. My world is not the world. That's an awesome perspective. Thank you, Hal. Okay, Shelley, why do you
Yeah,
feel you need to develop a freelance mindset?
I'm kind of being forced into it. I've always, the first speaker mentioned that she was always a loner and then forced into a team. I've always been a team mindset, and I'm being forced into being alone. I'm being pulled in several directions. And with the tutelage of Hal, I'm working closer and closer to being a freelance Facebook artist. I'm being pulled to make commercials and create content. And I try to farm it out to other people who do get paid for these things. And seems to be the niche is filling up a little bit, and they need more people, and more people are calling on me. So I think I'm about to have to get that business license. And it's kind of great.
That's fantastic. It's kind of great. Makes it all
Kind of great. Very worth it.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So for me, I've been self-employed my entire adult life. And too much choice can be a difficult thing. It needs to be managed. And if I have to work on every single idea that comes into my head, I would get nowhere. So very often when my head is full of lots of ideas, I really, really need to be strategic about which ones I need to work on next, so that I get to where I need to go. And I don't find myself in the weeds going, oh my goodness, how did I get here? Why am I struggling like this? So for me, being strategic is vitally important. And it's saved me in my career a lot of times, because I've been through this process before where I'll sit and I'll sift and scratch and scratch and scratch and iterate and iterate and iterate until I'm sure, because I feel it's vital to getting to where you want to be, or even close to where you want to be. Even if you end up somewhere unexpected, if you don't put yourself in the way of opportunity, it's not going to happen. All right, so then I think we've done everybody who wants to participate. So over to you, Tiffany. Why do you believe it's important?
I'm so delighted by the input that's come from all of you, because every one of you who've made a comment on why you think a freelance mindset is important ties into something that I speak about when I give this presentation. So you've really validated my thinking. I've given this presentation a good few times. In fact, I gave it this morning, but it's evening here in South Africa. But I really feel quite reassured by the things that you've said. Cara, you spoke about context shifting and juggling and being a team of one, which is very, very much a part of the freelance mindset. Hal, you spoke about making sure that your mind is open to different possibilities so that you can learn what's on the other side. Very much an element of the freelance mindset. Shelley spoke about the world changing, and in her environment, from being a team player to a loner, and having a freelance mindset so as to leverage as much of that as possible. And then Melanie, you said leveraging opportunity when it comes. But actually, Melanie, what you said made me particularly interested, because you mentioned that you actually do tend to get distracted by what I call bright, shiny objects. And I would love to pretend that a freelance mindset protects you from that, but it doesn't. The reason freelancers like me are freelancers is because we need variety to survive. We are very, very easily bored. And so bright, shiny object syndrome is very much a phenomenon that I can't help you to fix. What I can do is help you to assess which of those opportunities are worth making part of your strategic plan and which you should put in on your don't do list.
Yes.
So I can't solve bright, shiny object syndrome, because that is just as much a part of being a freelancer as fighting for money every month. But
so Tiffany, may I ask, what are bright, shiny objects to you? I know what mine are. What are yours?
I have chronic course creation syndrome. Okay. So I want to create a course on every idea that pops into my head. So I have 25 courses already that have been developed over the last 16 years. But every time I have another interesting thought, I think, oh, that should be a course. I should write a course on that. I can't write a course on it. So what I've started doing to satisfy that bright, shiny object syndrome is I now give a webinar on the thing, and then I call that done. It doesn't need to be a course. Okay. It can just be a webinar. But another thing that bright, shiny object syndrome for me is I want to do every piece of training that is offered by everyone else. I don't know that I actually want to actualize the things that are being taught, but I want to learn them and maybe use them or maybe not use them. For example, I decided last year that I was going to teach myself how to create a funnel, an email marketing funnel. It took me forever because my brain doesn't work like that, because I kept learning the best practices, but not being brave enough to use them. So that's bright, shiny object syndrome for me.
Okay. Thank you for holding up a mirror for me today, Tiffany. Cara, I see you giggling. Do you have something to add there?
I was just going to say I am like so guilty of suffering from bright, shiny object syndrome. I think I was actually going to get to my question at some point, Tiffany, around like, how do you learn to say no to things? Because I know that's something I struggle with. And I've heard from our community that a lot of folks run into that challenge, which I think ties into the idea of bright, shiny object syndrome. It's like, when you're excited about something, it's really hard to say no, even if you know that that's what's best for you and your mental health. So would love to hear a bit about that from your perspective as well.
So there are two types of no you have to say, and this is actually in my slides, but you won't believe me because you'll only see the slides when I send them to you afterwards. But you'll think I put it in because you mentioned it, but it was in there all along, I promise. There are two types of no that we have to learn to say if we're going to develop a freelance mindset. The one is saying no to other people, and the other is saying no to ourselves. And it's much harder to say no to yourself than to someone else. And the things that we have to say no to ourselves are, no, Tiffany, it is not time to develop another course. Can you just launch the course you developed last year? No, Melanie, it is not time to open a whole new community. Can you just let the benefit of the community? So that's the no's to ourselves. And then if you're going to be saying no to others, especially in your role as a community manager, one of the things that you are going to have to do, which is exceptionally hard, is become better at having hard conversations. Now, I don't know about non-South African audiences, but I can tell you, as somebody who teaches in South Africa a lot, South Africans are notoriously conflict averse. We don't like confrontation and we don't like tension. So we will do whatever we have to do to avoid having a hard conversation. And as a result, we say yes to all sorts of things we have no right saying yes to. We are people pleasers of note. And the longer you spend freelancing, the more of a people pleaser you are, because you think that every job is the very last job you will ever be offered in your life. And so part of saying no is learning how to not be afraid of gentle, firm pushback. And the only way to get better at that is practice. You've got to practice the art of negotiation, which I believe is one of the things on which freelancing lives and dies. So if you are going to develop a freelance mindset as a way to future-proof yourself, negotiation skills are a critical way to do that. And they feed into having courageous conversations. And that feeds into saying no to others. And that feeds into saying no to yourself. It's a very long answer to a very simple question. Sorry.
No, very helpful. And I really love the way that you just said having courageous conversations. I think it reframes it even just to hear you say that, from having like challenging or difficult conversations. So I really like the way you said that. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Melanie, should I dive in and give my 3 core tips for building a freelance mindset, or is it too soon?
Dive in, and we'll ask more questions as they come up.
So because the group is quite small and manageable at the moment, I'm going to encourage you to ask questions as I go. So don't worry about interrupting me or popping a question in the chat. I'll address it as I see it. Let's not be shy with questions. I think let's keep this nice and sort of interactive as we go. So I'm not going to give you too much of the theory behind why developing a freelance mindset is important. I think the mere fact that you've asked me to speak about it shows that you're already part of the tribe that I belong to, which is the tribe that believes in a freelance mindset, just because you selected me to speak. But what I am going to say is the unfortunate reality of the world that we live in now, on the sort of long tail of a pandemic, and at the end of what has been some economically trying years, I think, and politically trying years globally. An unfortunate consequence of that is that there is no such thing as job security. I don't believe. I think that job security is a myth. And what we need to strive for is 2 things in place of job security: income security and relationship security. Because whether or not you will have a job in future no longer depends on whether you have one now. And the 30 years of working for a particular company and getting a gold watch at the end is no longer feasible. It's just not the way the world is anymore. So given that job security is a myth, and given that income security is what we want to strive for, whether you are permanently and traditionally employed, or whether you're a contractor, associate, freelancer, whether you have your fingers in multiple pies, you've got side hustles or whatever it might be, it's important to bear in mind that the elements of future-proofing yourself and the elements of being a freelancer often overlap. So those are the 3. I've sort of oversimplified them into 3 things, and then I'm going to go a little bit more granular with each. So the first one is what I call show your value. And show your value is about knowing number one. And number two, being able to articulate what your unique niche is. So if you want to try this now live with me, you can. So you can grab a pen or pencil if you want to. I'll give you a minute to do that, or you can get ready to start typing on a phone or device. And you can answer these three questions. I'm going to read them out to you once, and then I'm going to read them out again a few more times just so that you get them. The three questions are, what is my specific niche? I'll also pop them in the chat. What can I give in my role that no one else can? And what's my unique deliverable? So I'm going to put these three questions. Let's see if that will work. There we go. So I've popped them into the chat. What's my specific niche? What can I give in my role that no one else can? And what's my unique deliverable? So let me help you answer these. Let's say, for argument's sake, that you are a brilliant organizer. Let's say that that's the thing you give that no one else gives as well as you do. So whether you're in corporate comms or media relations or advertising or nonprofit work or whatever your area is, what tends to happen is that because you're an excellent organizer, you find all the organizational things in and around your role and you lean in, you lean towards them. You volunteer for the organizational things. You make yourself known for organizing because you enjoy it anyway. So that is the thing that you give that no one else gives, okay? But very often your zone of genius or your niche is not that obvious. Let's say, for example, that you are an outstanding baker. Okay, you make exceptional sourdough. Now that does not have an obvious correlation if your role is in investor relations. Okay, but you can bring the same skills it takes to be an amazing baker to your role in investor relations. For example, a solid grasp of basic maths, time consciousness, attention to detail, calmness under pressure. So these are all characteristics that define a great baker, but also a very good investor relations manager, for example. So the way you know that you found your zone of genius or your niche is it must jazz you from an energy point of view. It must make you feel what we call in South Africa lekker. It must make you feel good inside, okay? You must feel enormously energized by it. It can't be something you're good at that people ask you to do that you don't like doing. So it's not the thing people come to you and say, please help me with this, but you don't really like doing it. That's not your zone of genius. That's your zone of excellence. It's got to be the thing that you enjoy so much you would do it for nothing, or you would do it on your day off, okay? And it might be something small and sort of characteristic based, like you're an excellent organizer, or it might be something much more macro, like you write exceptionally good radio commercials, for example. Now, once you know your zone of genius, what you can start doing is articulating it. In other words, bringing it into your conversations and messaging, but also demonstrating it in ways that your team members are able to see it. Okay. And in order to do that, you need to write it down. I mean, I'm a writer, so obviously I have that bias, but you need to write your zone of genius down. Otherwise it becomes very, very hard to live it. So I'm going to, if you still have the pen in your hand, I'm going to give you a little template, which again will be in the slides that Melanie will share with you. But here is the template for how you define or write down what I call your ZOG, which is your zone of genius. So how it works is you say, I help, and then you insert your target audience in the brackets. To do what, you insert what you help them to do. By doing what, so you insert your methodology or your how, and then you explain how you add value. Now I'm going to give you an example of this. I'll do two so that you can see how it works. Pop that in the chat. So for example, I teach corporate communicators, so that is one of my target audiences, to do what? To stand out. How? By showing their unique value to the company they work for. And what is the implication of this? It future-proofs them for a changing world. So can you see that in the example, I've actually used the template to populate my zone of genius. So I did another one today when I was running this workshop this morning. I was teaching a group of video producers. And the example that I gave was that I help video production companies to differentiate themselves in a noisy and competitive marketplace by creating clear, clean, and compelling corporate video scripts. It was something like that. So you basically just insert the relevant things into the brackets. Now, you obviously can have more than one Zog because you all do more than one thing. But it helps to know what they are so that depending on who you're speaking to, you can articulate the relevant one. Another thing that is very useful once you know what your zone of genius is you use it on your Facebook page in the About section. You use it on your Facebook profile. You use it on any social media platforms that you might use as part of your bio. And it achieves a lovely consistency across the different areas where you operate. So the key thing is to make it known. You already have the skill and you're using it all the time, probably subconsciously, but you're not used to calling it out. So you have to work to expose it when day-to-day opportunities arise. So that's one of the things.
That's so beautiful for me. Thank you, Tiffany, because if I think about it, I've been trying to work out my elevator pitch for this new field I found myself in as community manager. And all of the ones I've done so far have been very bland because they don't talk to my zone of genius. So thank you. You've given me a very, very important piece of that development that I'm working on and a great framework for working it out. Thank you.
It's important when using it to be as relentlessly specific as possible. And that way you will overcome blandness. Because the minute you become very, very specific about the who, the what, the how, and the what value it adds, then suddenly the blandness disappears from it. The risk of not using the template is that you land up with something very vague, which is not meaningful to you and not meaningful to others.
Totally. That's pure gold. Thank you. Thank you. Hal, I see you nodding your head.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of the same path that you just explained and laid out, Tiffany. But the funny part about it for me is that when I started down this path, I didn't know I was on the path to begin with. The path exposed itself to me. I didn't expose myself to the path. And you know, those of you that know me, I try regularly to not outwardly say this is my expertise, this is what I do. But there's a couple of things that I came to an awareness that I thoroughly enjoy and love doing that I did not know brought value until, hey, that's valuable. And then I fell into the position of being able to express that value and gain from it. And what I'm really talking about is I love to teach and nurture people and encourage them and be supportive on their journey. And I didn't know that. I had no idea. It never came to mind. And then I woke up one day not so long ago, literally, and said, wow, this is a lot of fun. I want to do it more. And when I did that, it was in the certified group, in the learning group, and we did the first cohort where I was involved in mentoring the next group of students. When it was over, I didn't want it to stop. I said, I immediately, literally the next day, woke up and said, what's next? Is there another cohort? Give me more students. I want to do it again. Because I got so much joy and pleasure out of, part of it's watching people grow and them flourish and them get something from something that I'm offering and supporting. And another part of it is it's an ongoing learning process for me too, because there's lots of parts of this certified world that we're in here today that I don't know about, and I still want to learn about. And a lot of it's on the commercial side and the brand side and freelancing, and encouraging other people to step out there and say, you have value. Let's go see where your value is, and let's nurture it and grow it, and let's honor it, and show you the value so you can show somebody else. And this whole process, I'm 64 years old. I had my career. And I purposely am coming out of retirement to do this.
If we had told you when you were younger that you'd reinvent yourself in a new career at 64, would you have believed it?
I wouldn't have believed it 6 months ago. Or maybe a year ago, depending on, like right at the certification point after the last summit. I didn't know. But it's like my first career, my first hobby was like woodworking. I like building things, right? And I used to teach people how to build little jewelry boxes and baby cradles, all homemade in the garage kind of stuff, right? And I really enjoyed that. And I thought I wanted that to be my career. And when I got into it, I started to hate it because there was so much pressure on having to produce. And then I found my real career, which was in the fire service, and I did that for a long time, and I retired from that, and I thoroughly enjoyed that throughout the whole process. And now in this next phase, I'm in it, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm producing. I'm having other people set goals for me, because they need to, and I need them to, and it's a part of the requirement. And I'm enjoying the challenge, and I'm loving it. So it's another reinvention. I don't know if that answers, the scenario that Tiffany brought up, but I found you showed me my value. I didn't see my value because I didn't know it existed in the first place. But I was hopeful, thank God, opening up to actually say, wow, that's pretty cool. Let's pursue it.
I think you make a wonderful case for freelancing because it's a job you can never get fired from. So, Tiffany, tell us more about why you love being a freelancer.
As I said previously, with regard to bright shiny object syndrome, I and most creative freelancers are commitment phobic, and we need variety to thrive. And so for me, the beauty of freelancing is that I can be working on intellectual property law, thought leadership content in the morning, and writing a website about the machines that manufacture bricks in the afternoon. And tomorrow it'll be animal pharmaceuticals, and the next day it will be avocados, and the next day it will be, I'm trying to think of this week alone, writing about bilingual immersion in schools, and creating social media posts for transformation coaches who specialize in tarot. So to get paid very good money to do all of those weird things is a blessing. Also, I don't know that I speak for all freelancers, but I need autonomy. So no one must ever tell me what to do. I don't play nicely in teams. I must either be the boss or the only person with a microphone, which is why I'm self-employed and I speak for a living. I'm not good in a team. So I have to be in charge. Not all freelancers are like that, but the ones that have achieved one of my tips of a freelance mindset, which is self-determination. So I determine my own career trajectory. I determine my own training path, what I'm going to study, when I'm going to study it. I identify and then seize my own opportunities. I'm in charge of my own self-promotion. I have to have hard conversations and make sure that I'm able to negotiate. So self-determining is very much a function of self-employment. And I think if you have the right personality for it, then you find it very satisfying. Many people find it very stressful. And usually those people don't last very long as freelancers, or at least never go beyond part-timing it, because some of the elements required to do it full-time are so stressful.
Freelancers actually need to be like all-rounders very much.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think
Yeah, I'm sorry. Shelly and Michael are viewing the live and would like to get back into the room if you have the ability to add them back in.
So thank you for asking, and I'm terribly sorry I haven't let you folks back in, but I am on the free StreamYard package, and I seem to have hit my cap for guests. And I didn't even know because I've used StreamYard only once or twice. This is the most people I've ever had in a room. So thank you for showing up, and I'm so sorry I can't let you in. And if they have any questions, if they'll pop them in the chat for us, and Hal, you can just read them back to us. So, Tiffany, I'd like to circle back to something that you've mentioned and something that I've listened to you speak about previously that I think would be worthwhile for the rest of the group. And that is, tell us your secrets for getting paid well.
Getting paid well or getting paid on time? Because those are two very different things.
Are they different? Are they mutually exclusive?
No, they're not mutually exclusive, but the techniques are different. So I'll start with getting paid well, and then I'll move to getting paid on time.
Oh, that's interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, they're different. They're different. So getting paid well is a function of attracting high-paying clients, right? But not just high-paying clients. You have to attract clients who recognize your value. So just to illustrate that with an example, I don't go out into the market and try and convince clients why they need a copywriter. I only want to work with people who already know they need a copywriter. They just want to find the right copywriter. So my job is not to convince a non-copywriter user to use one, because that's selling the category. I'm not interested in selling the category. I'm interested in selling me. My job is to find clients who already know they need someone like me and are willing to pay more than average pricing to get exceptionally good quality. So it's very much like Simon Sinek's golden circles. It's finding people who already believe what you believe. Yes. And that's one of the tricks to finding high-paying clients. Of course, you also can't be doing exactly the same thing everyone else is doing, because then you can't charge more. So in my market, there are very few freelance copywriters who specialize in corporate, commercial, and B2B work. And so there's a lot of that work for me, and I can charge a premium for it because very few of us do it. Okay. So you do have to be niched. Otherwise, if you're going to specialize in writing blog posts, it's going to be extremely hard to attract high-paying clients, because there are lots of people who do that. Even if you are extremely good at it, it's going to be hard to differentiate. And that goes back to knowing your value and showing your value and knowing what your niche is, because off the back of that niche, you can advocate for more money. Yes. Yes. So you have to know what your niche is.
I love that quick sort that you sell to people who are already looking for what you're doing, that you sell yourself and not the category. Yeah. I think that's an amazingly powerful filter for economy.
Yeah. But also it helps me know what to say no to. Yes. Because I know I'm not everyone's writer. I'm only certain kinds of people's writer. Or if we look at me with my training hat on, I don't do highly professional, very structured, hard skills training. I do raw, authentic, honest, a bit of swearing, like I can't authentically teach with a ramrod spine. I can only teach with my hands, with my pencil, that's and for people who don't like that sort of training, I'm not the right trainer. But for people who thrive on that sort of training, I am the right trainer. So you've got to go find your people where they are. You don't have to be everyone's cup of tea. And I know it. I think I only got comfortable with this in my late 30s. I'm okay with not being everyone's cup of tea. Not everyone has to think I'm the best. Only the people who already believe what I believe need to think that I'm the best. Everyone else can take me or leave me.
Why do you think it takes us a long time to get to that point?
Because I think the more experienced we get, and it doesn't have to be in our field. So Hal, for example, says that 6 to 12 months ago he wasn't doing this. The more experienced we get as humans living in the world, the more comfortable we are with being who we are. So it doesn't mean that you have to be in your niche for a long time. You just have to exist in the universe for the 40-something me is a much more happy with myself me than the 20-something me, because I didn't know better.
Yes.
Now I know that there are bigger things in the world than whether people think I'm the smartest girl in the room.
Yes.
Melanie, I think she just called us old.
I'm going to overlook it. She's going to tell you.
Well, I really didn't unmute to be joking like that, but Shelley put in a comment in the chat that she's being approached and it wasn't her goal, so it's great that it's happening, and she needs to learn how to charge for assisting these people, which I think circles back to what you talked about, being able to show your value and being able to say, listen, this is my worth. And the people that, like you just said, that could see my worth, I'm interested in talking to them about it. And people that don't recognize my worth, that's fine also. But that's a perfect question for what you were just talking about.
I'd like to actually go a little bit deeper down there, Shelley, for you, if you don't mind. So when you are deciding how to charge for assisting these people, you need to bear in mind two critical things. One is you are not charging them for your time. You are charging them for the value that you bring to the time. So you are not charging them an hourly rate because your time is worth whatever it is per hour. You are charging them for the however many years it's taken you to get to the point where you can provide that service in the hour. So remember that you're not selling your time, you're selling your expertise. It just so happens that time is the vehicle for explaining it, but it is not your time. It's that, in my case, 20 years it's taken me to be able to do the work in the hour, not the hour itself. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, it's okay to be unapologetic about your rates. What we tend to do is we say, I'm sorry, and then we explain that we aren't going to take the work because our rates are higher or the client's budget is lower. Don't be sorry. It's the way it is. It's not something you've done wrong. And the minute you introduce that language of apology, you're on the back foot. So those are my two tips. I see Shelley says, it took us years to get this good. And they see it. That's why they seek you. Correct. So don't forget that when you get to negotiation stage. I don't know if it's Claudia or Claudia, but she says, I needed to be here. I have 2 clients not paying on time. I was able to identify the reasons why. I do lots of work already without getting paid just for helping others. So another thing that one needs to do as a freelancer is chase money. And this is when Melanie asked me, how do I get paid well? I said, well, the question actually is, how do I get paid at all? I have a system. I have a very structured system. So step 1 is, hello client, here is the invoice. So I've done the work. Client is happy with it. Step 1 is, hello client, here is invoice. Step 2 is, hello client, I see that you've not paid invoice. Is there a problem with invoice? Which is usually enough of a nudge for them to pay. Step 3 is, hello client, I see that you've still not paid invoice. May I remind you that the terms which you signed when you accepted my quote are 7-day payment within 7 days, at which point prevailing interest rates will apply. Now, I've never ever actually done that, but I threaten to do it, and that normally gets them to pay. If that doesn't work, they get another email. Hello, client, just a gentle nudge. I know times are tough for everyone, but may I remind you that for freelancers, we have the same obligations as everyone else, and I really would like to encourage you to make pay. So I just do a little gentle guilt trip. And if none of this is working, then I tend to bring out the big dogs. But that, again, in 16 years, I've done maybe twice, ever. Or 3 times. Usually they pay with the second nudge, and if not with the second, certainly with the third. Again, don't be apologetic about chasing money.
Do you ever ask for deposits up front, Tiffany?
I always ask for deposits up front. So I always joke with my younger students, I don't get out of bed without a deposit. But I mean, the non-jokey version of that is, any piece of work, no matter how small, in order to be booked into my job board, requires the payment of a deposit and the signing of a quote.
Okay.
There are no exceptions except my regulars. And my regulars are 5 or 6 clients that keep me on retainer, and obviously they don't pay deposits, and they can accept quotes with a handshake and a wink. But everyone new to me will pay at least 50% upfront before anything will be done.
Okay, at least 50%.
Yeah.
And if your gut's not happy, you don't take the work.
No, I'm in the privileged position of having more work than I can do, which means that I don't have to work for people who aren't nice. If you're not nice, I don't want to work with you. You need to be nice. And you need to not just be nice to me, you need to be nice to the world. So you can't be in tobacco, gambling, child beauty pageants. You can't be in hunting, canned hunting. You can't be an anti-vaxxer. I mean, there are things that I'll do and things that I won't do. And I have the privilege of saying no. So you've got to be nice.
I'm so excited we made it through your filter. Thank you.
But there are sometimes red flags. Clients who won't answer my questions. So before I can quote you on a project, I ask a lot of questions because I want to quote you accurately and fairly. If you won't take the time to answer them and it's not a long list, then I don't want to work with you. If you're not going to pay a deposit, there's zero chance I'm going to work with you. If you tell me you can't pay a deposit because the work is so urgent, it takes 3 seconds to do an EFT. And I'm not going to go down the road with you if I'm going to have to chase you for payment. And if you're not nice to me and you don't talk to me nicely, then I'm afraid and I do say to people, we're not a fit. Again, this doesn't happen often because most people are inherently nice.
Yes.
I find most people are nice. The proportion of clients who are horrible is very small. 95% of people are nice. 5% of people are horrible, and I won't work with them.
Yes. That's such a great insight. Thank you so much. I often speak to, I don't know what it's like in the rest of the world, but in South Africa, I often speak to people who say, I think particularly in the clothing industry, that they've got nightmare customers who don't pay and who aren't nice to them. And you almost have to give them permission to fire them and say, you don't need to waste your energy on these people. They're not worth it.
Firing clients is an incredibly liberating act. And if you are listening and you're thinking in your mind that you have the 5% and you'd love to let go of 1 or 2, remember that in order to open the door to someone nice, you have to close the door to someone horrible. So you have to make space in your life and in your brain for the nice people. And to do that, you have to fire the not nice people. So sometimes somebody will come to me. It happened recently. A student came to me and she said, I have 3 clients who keep me on retainer. One is the most obscene retainer. I need it, but they are such a nightmare to deal with that it's not worth the money. And I said, fire them. And maybe you'll have to get 2 or 3 retainers to make up for the loss, but it'll be 2 or 3 nice people. And she fired them and she's never looked back because she had to open the door to nice people. Sometimes it's not worth the money. I've been offered ridiculous sums of money to do work that ethically I have a problem with, multi-level marketing. I was offered a ridiculous retainer last year to do multi-level marketing. And I have huge ethical problems with it. So I had to say no. And it was a significant chunk of money that I could have used to do all sorts of, extravagant things, but I couldn't work with these people. Shirley says she refuses to work with people who aren't as excited about the project as she is. Yeah, absolutely. If they're not keen, then you're not keen. Shirley, you also asked, what is your determination for deposit? Do you mean how much? Or do you mean what the rules are? Won't you just clarify your question in the comments for me and I'll explain. As you can no doubt tell, I have no problem explaining my position on anything. Melanie, how much time do we still have?
So we have 1 minute and then we're on time. So if this can be the final answer, thank you so much.
Debbie has said 50%, yeah. So that is what I ask for as a minimum. And if it's a teeny job, then I ask for the full amount up front.
Okay. And I will be posting this video in the public group. It's going into the public group. So if there are any questions, we can wrap up a final Q&A in that group in the comments over there. So I've pushed it right to the edge with time because Tiffany, you were just dropping so much value there. That was awesome. It was incredible for me. I'm quite certain that everybody else who participated, I see Hal is nodding. Thank you. And Kara is happy. So thank you so much for delivering such awesome value in such a generous way. We're super thankful.
That's my pleasure. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you very much for being with me. In terms of next steps, I'm going to make the slides available to Melanie so she can share them wherever she would like. And as far as I know, I'm not currently a member of the public group, but I'll join it so that if there are questions, then people can just tag me and I'll see them.
Yes, I'll tag you through. I'll bring you through so that you can find it easily.
Perfect.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. That was an awesome session. I appreciate you all very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Tiffany, and thanks, Melanie, for hosting. This is great.
Pleasure.